Hi, my name is Cobus Theyse and I'm one of the founding partners of the Namibia Oil and Gas Resource Hub. So the Namibia Oil and Gas Supplier database, we thought about creating a yellow pages for the Namibia oil and gas industry about 3 years ago, seeing how many people were interested in coming into the oil and gas industry and also who needed information about it. Not to mention international stakeholders who would come to Namibia and we would meet them and they would say, oh my gosh, we wanted to find out who's within the finance sector for oil and gas, and they literally had to Google and start cold calling people. So about 3 years ago we sat down and we were like, why don't we create a database and we can list every single company who's interested and also people who are interested. We use John the welder as an example. He builds braai stands in his hometown and he keeps reading about all this great opportunities coming from oil and gas, but he doesn't know how to open the door. So what we want to do is create a platform, and that's what we've done with the database, where he can list himself and possibly get information about any welding opportunities that's out there, certification courses, that we can then start pushing that to him. And hopefully by that we can start laying the groundwork to having a central database for Namibia. So as a public database, what we want to do is ensure that Namibians have access to something where they can list themselves and they can get called up. A lot of organizations and people might have Excel sheets with CVs or names and telephone numbers, but everybody holds it very close to their hearts, to their chests. So what we want to do is ensure that all Namibians actually have access to this kind of information and also access to the opportunities that could come from these oil and gas operations that's on the horizon, and also, how do we help people benefit? NamibiaOilAndGas.com was started as a newsroom, a media room if you like, to take all the information that's out there about oil and gas and put it into one central space where people, instead of having to look at 10 different news sites, can go to one site to get all the information. Now, what we did is to create a resource hub from this, and the supplier database kind of grew from there. Thinking about transparency, how do we allow people from all over the world to get to the information that Namibia can offer. If you think of access to information, there's a lot that we need to do as Namibians to ensure that we have the right information out there about our industry. And also, if we can't have a central place where we can tell the world how many welders are there, how many finance companies are there, how many law firms are actually operating within the oil and gas sector, it's also very difficult for us to speak to our government or speak to international organizations and say, listen, this is what Namibia has and this is what Namibia needs. It's not a question about lobbying, but it's a question of how can we use the information in order to benefit Namibia the best. So the database has 4 different listing profiles. The first is a free listing, which you as a person or a company can put your name, email number and telephone number on. And then it grows up into a premium listing where companies can actually, in essence, have an entire page with links to their own web page, with links to videos, to qualifications, to certifications, whether it's a Namibian company or, the ownership structures. These are all the things that we're building into the database already. Investors, business people, policymakers, everybody needs information. Yes, there's industrial baseline surveys, but on the ground, how do we push this information out to the relevant parties? If there's information that needs to go to smaller companies within Namibia who are interested in working within oil and gas or, trying to get certifications, more information, if they list it on the database, we could in essence push this kind of information to them so that they can have access to it. Policymakers can use the information based on, what companies are on the database, in what sectors of the oil and and gas and energy industry are they? And they can use this to make informed decisions when it comes to speaking to tertiary educational institutions, what courses need to be there, and also, what kind of companies should be pushed to operate in Namibia and how that should be. Our mission to inspire growth within the energy sector very much comes from looking at the resource hub that we've created and what other opportunities we can afford Namibians through it. Whether it's putting the news and information at people's fingertips, creating an easy digestible podcast every week, unpacking the industry through our upcoming series on the Namibia oil and gas industry, or the supplier database where Namibian companies can actually list themselves and also find perhaps business-to-business partners. So whatever we do for Namibia Oil and Gas always comes with one core value in that sense, and that is what can we do for Namibia. We are a Namibian organization. We are hosted by Namibians, built by Namibians, and I think that passion that we bring is really how can we open the door to other people that are interested in the oil and gas industry, and also how can we facilitate the development within the greater industry. So the Resource Hub, as we've mentioned, we have the media aspect of it, bringing all the different media that you find about Namibia Oil and Gas, the industry itself, into one particular place. The next phase was very much the supply database, and that's a continuous development. Every month we sit down and we look at where we've come and what is needed and how we can perhaps improve it. And this is where our power lies. The next step, with everybody on the database and all the companies, how do we actually access this information or make this information a little bit more tangible by perhaps creating a business development tool? We're speaking to various partners. We've been looking into that, to be able to take a company from where they are now, link them up with a relevant, perhaps consultants out there with the certification processes. How do they tender for projects? If there's supplier days out there, how can they be ready to become a supplier, not necessarily a tier 1 supplier or even tier 2 supplier, but even if they can become a supplier to a supplier, what are the steps that they need to take? And this is what we want to do. We want to take this further, and we always invite partners and other stakeholders to come and join us, and how we can continuously develop this. We're also speaking to various institutions. We have an online application platform that's ready to be plugged into the Resource Hub, and through that we want to have certified and trusted qualifications authorities and people and companies who actually have the right courses on offer, so that, for instance, John the welder, who we use as an example, that he can go to a certain platform like our platform and actually get the right information, not that he sees something on social media that promises wealth and riches, but it's actually just some non-meaning certification, but that he can come to our platform and we can push this information to him so that when he signs up, he knows it's a trusted certified partner. I think for Namibia Oil and Gas, what I would like to add is just that, there's no roadmap for us in how we develop this resource hub. What we've done so far is very much look at Namibia and look at the various opportunities out there and what Namibia needs. And being a smaller vehicle in that way, it's easy for us to navigate and pivot as we go along.